Consuming content is worthless. Acting on content is how you get 1% better every day. Here's the simple process I follow to turn content into action. Let me show you. All right, I'm gonna walk you through this. So yesterday I was reading an article about every interesting product studio, media company, consultant company, whatever you think they have it. But essentially they posted an article because they recently started doing consulting work. And we're doing something similar, not super successfully, I would say, but nonetheless, a lot to learn in here. And I went through this, and essentially on the fly, I was like, okay, I can read this, but reading doesn't really help me apply it in my day-to-day to improve, right? So I essentially went in here, and what I did was, and you can do this is a custom tool I've built, but you can do this just with Claude or any other tool. Essentially, I told it to scrape this URL and help me reflect on this email. I have different tools here. All of them are just a Claude project, a system prompt, and I'll link all those prompts up in the description of the video so you can check them out yourself and use them yourself. And I also have a video on how to use Claude projects, for example, but that's a different video. I'll link that up as well. And essentially what it does, it goes in and it uses Firecrawl. Behind the scenes, it's just a tool to turn that into data or markdown really, and then I have it in context here, right? And so now I can be like, reflect. Part of the reflection is the system prompt here that's essentially lays out the key learnings and then says here are the key learnings and this is what you can do. And then it helps me to reflect, and through the reflection I can then start making up my own mind, right? Like I'm not letting AI do my work. My work really is thinking about how I can apply this for myself, right? And the thing with Claude projects, or what I do here as well, is I have extra context about my company, about what I'm doing, so it already knows a lot, right? So it can help me really kind of pinpoint the issues that I'm trying to solve. And so it knows what Nichemates is, which is the company, right? So it goes in and says, hey, how can you leverage the hands-on experience building AI tools to establish credibility? So that's something, this video is an example of that. At least I'm trying to, right? And so it really helps me turn this through reflection with just a simple, like a couple steps, into something actionable. And I think that's where AI is really, right, is really transforming something inactive, like an inactive process, through a bridge of like brainstorming or, taking next steps and then turning that into something that's actionable. And also it helps you break down those steps, right? Because we can take this a bit further and say, help me to get started with number one, lay it out step by step, keep it super simple so that I can get started today. So if it's something you need to start applying immediately or you want to, often it can be a bit overwhelming because it's, you're here and you want to be up here and you need to figure out step by step, how do I get there? But that's why it's so powerful to essentially have a chat with any kind of content piece, right? That you can just ask things and it can be very specific, tailored to that content piece, because what we're doing is we're pulling the content piece into context, but you still have the holistic approach because you have the LLM, like the foundational model behind it, and that can, once you branch out of the initial context, that can be super helpful to, cast a wider net. And now we essentially have step by step and things that I can start doing today, which is like document your existing projects. I already have this, right? But if I were to get started, this is how I could do it, and I can immediately act on it. And one other tool I have, again, I'll link that up below, is essentially another system prompt that helps me to create like other tools like this, like other system prompts or other tools from the content piece, right? So essentially what I can do is now I have all the context that I need. I have the content piece, I have my own reflection, I have steps to get started, and I can say, what tools can I build to even help me getting started? Not just, okay, I have it in text and I have it here, but then it's like, it's still too abstract, right? Like we all know what we need to do sometimes, but we just don't do it because we don't know how to take the first step, even though we know what the first step is, right? And so this makes it even easier. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say, what or which of these learnings are potential system prompts that help me get started? So what that tool does is essentially just extract very simple system prompts, to then kick off a process of, let's say, just going for reflecting on my AI tools or something, right? So here it could essentially help you brainstorm the pieces that you should be putting into the context to then create tweets or content or whatever, right? LinkedIn posts to essentially make the content as well and make it as easy as possible, by reducing as much friction as possible. And essentially you're building up one knowledge repository, which is, this is the project and this is what we're doing. And then you can just use that and ask different questions or tell it to generate different pieces of content super easily, right? And this is applicable to any other process, right? Because we often have content with step-by-step frameworks to do something, but we don't know how to do it. And so this helps us walk through it step by step in an interactive process that we are in control of, really, right? Okay, so it has the thingies here, but it doesn't show me the system prompt. I think that's a problem with the system prompt here. Show me the system prompt for each of these here. Or I'm just bad at prompting, you never know. All right, so now we have the system prompts. I could go in and then go to Claude or GPT, doesn't matter, create a new project, create it, and then I can go in and I go into the project instructions, and this can just be copy and pasted here. It's essentially a system prompt to prime the initial workflow towards this, and it would be a project documentation assistant, right? We'll go in here, say, let's do this. And here's also the place where you can add extra context if you already have context, about what you've done before, any type of blog post you've already written. All right, so it's like, tell me about the first project. I built a wedding speech tool. All right, and so now we got started, and it took us like 3 clicks or something and a little bit of thinking. But if you walk through this process step by step and see it as a holistic approach to turn any piece of content, really, that's like not a tweet maybe, but anything that you're interested in, turning that into something that both is more actionable and it also like sticks with you more, because I think using it will help you more than just reading it. I think that is really kind of the power of AI to help you get those processes started. And it's not perfect, right? Because it's 80%, it's 80-20. But the hardest part is to get started, and going to a draft or getting, your first brainstorm out and stuff. I think that is really where we need the most help. And so it's great to have something that helps you. All right. And this is how I use it, every day, essentially. And I also already, for example, started to take it one step further and be like, hey, how can I take things from books, for example, or articles and make them images? So I started dabbling around with this, but it's not done yet. So it's a work in progress. But essentially that is another step that you can take to retain information, is to make it visual, because it hits another, sense essentially, or something else in your brain, how you take it up other than just language. And I think we retain images a lot better. So yeah, you can take this wherever you want. That's what I'm trying to say. You just need to get started. Alrighty, that's it. If my rambling sounds interesting, feel free to subscribe below, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.